Your first exercise is a goblet squat. What you're going to do is hold your dumbbell up by your chest, keeping your chest up though, not rounding over. You're going to sit your butt back pretty much as low as you can go, unless you get lower back pain. Then you only want to get as low as you can without pain. You also want to brace your abs and push with your legs. Now pay attention to my knees here. They are pretty much in line with my feet and my toes. So if your feet are out, then your knees go out a bit. If your feet are straight, then your knees go straight. What you don't want is for your knees to collapse inwards, especially if your feet and toes are pointing outwards. That can cause a lot of knee stress, a lot of knee pain, and maybe even lead to injury. Now you've got a minute rest. Now I know a minute might feel like a long time, but because you're doing a beginner program and you might just be starting out for the first time or for the first time in a while, you want to make sure that your muscles are rested between each set. If you don't rest enough, you risk injury and you risk being too tired to actually use the proper muscles and your form will break down. The beginning of a program is the most important time to start hammering in the proper movements, the proper muscles, doing things the right way so that you're actually working the muscles that you want to focus on the most. Another important part of the rest is to practice your breathing, your nice deep breathing. So catch your breath, mentally focus, and prepare on the cues that you're going to need for the next set. You got about 10 seconds. The second set is usually the easiest. The first one is like a warm-up, where your body is just getting used to the movement and your muscles are getting used to firing as heavy as they need to lift that weight. The second set, your nervous system and your body is a little more prepared, so you can focus a little more on the movement, doing everything right, squeezing the right muscles, and feeling the burn. Now I do have to add, you'll only really feel the burn with higher reps, usually 8 and above. Here I'm doing about 15 reps or so I'm definitely feeling the burn in my legs, maybe even my core too. Having the weight front loaded like this will definitely challenge the abs and the core a little more than usual as well. Alright, you've got one more break of 1 minute before you do your last set of goblet squats. This is the one where you're going to have to focus the most. Think about what you need to do to prepare yourself to fully conquer this last set. Usually when you're tired, it's easy to just give up or quit halfway through a set, but for this one, I want you to do whatever you can to just get through every single rep. Breathe proper, focus, put on whatever music you need to put on, and we're just going to do one last set of up to 15 reps. Okay, this is your third and final set, so let's pay attention, focus, get the form right, sit the butt back, keep the chest up, tight core, focus on the legs. Don't let your knees go too far forward, especially if you have a history of knee pain, and also if your lower back bugs you at the very bottom, just go about halfway down. Keep counting those reps, focus, and you're almost there. Last couple reps coming in before you get another little break. Alright, good stuff. And that's it for goblet squats. Next up, we have an exercise for your back. It's still a full body exercise because your legs and your core have to stabilize the movement while your arms and your back row the weight upwards. Now this is a great compound movement, meaning that it works multiple muscles at the same time. This is what we want for not only in strength, but also burning more energy, which in turn will help you lose fat. Now, when you're doing this, if you start to feel your lower back being irritated, working too much, or pain, I would do one of two things. One, focus harder on bracing your abs, or two, just skip the exercise because we do not want to make any sort of lower back pain worse. However, if you want to fix your lower back pain and be able to do this exercise without a problem, you can simply email Chris or Shannon, or you can reach out to us on any social media, Instagram, Facebook, etc., in order to set up a one-on-one personal training session online that we can help you with your specific problems. So what you're going to do here is bend over with a straight back. We don't want your lower back rounded or upper back rounded too much, and we also don't want you super arched upwards either. You're going to really have to brace your abs here, or else you'll notice that your body will start rising upwards and you'll be almost completely standing tall by the end of the exercise. That is not what we want if we're trying to target your back muscles. Now, in terms of what you want to feel, you want to actually roll your arms backwards and upwards. You don't want to think of shrugging them up towards your neck, feeling your traps. We want to feel your mid to upper back working together here. Now take a minute to rest. Think of how you felt during that first set. If your back was okay, if your lower back was okay, if you felt the right muscles in your forearms and your mid back, that would be your lats, your rhomboids, around your rotator cuff type thing. And start thinking of the cues for the next set. Make sure that you have a neutral or straight back. Make sure that you're bent over enough. You'll know if you're bent over enough if you actually feel a bit of a stretch in your hamstrings when you're in the bottom position. Keeping that chest up and then rowing in a full range of motion with your arms completely straight down to start and then rowing them back up to finish the rep. Now you also don't have to go all the way up. All you need is so that your elbows get bent at about a 90-degree angle. Okay, your second set is starting. We're going to go again for between 10 and 15 reps. Keep the focus. Make sure you're squeezing those back muscles. Roll the weight up to you and don't lose that position. Keep the core braced so that you aren't rising up through every single rep. The higher up you are when you row, the less mid-back activation we get. Turns more into a shrug. It's really important to remember to keep a good breathing rhythm as well. So remember, inhale and exhale pretty much every rep. Alright, you're done 2 out of 3. You have one more set to go. Take your full minute to focus on recovery, focus on breathing, catching your breath, and again, think of all the cues that you want to use for the next set. Keep the full body tight, keep the abs braced, and row with your back muscles. Now always take this last set to kind of reflect and also think about how this felt. Did it feel too easy? Did it feel like you could go up in weight? Did it feel like you wanted to do more reps? Or did it feel like 3 sets was too much for you? If that's the case, consider starting out with 2 sets before you increase to a third one in a different workout. Okay, now we're up for the last set. Now we're going for the last set, and just remember, one of the most important things on the last set is keeping the form right. As your body gets tired, set after set, the form wants to break down, and your body wants to kind of take the easiest way out. But you want to really focus because the third and final set is usually what you get the most out of. Keep the form, keep the focus. You'll hear me repeat that almost every single set this workout. It's one of the most important things for a beginner program. Alright, good job on finishing that second exercise. Alright, good job on finishing the second exercise. Alright, good job on finishing the second exercise of this workout. Next up, we have an upper body pushing or pressing movement. It's called a floor press. So as you can see here, you're lying flat on the ground. Your feet can be up in that 90-degree position as you see, or they can be straight, whatever feels good. And you're going to grab some dumbbells and just press right up. It's like a bench press, but with a smaller range of motion, which is always good to start. What we want is to get used to the exercise, used to the right muscles, before we keep increasing the range of motion more and more under load. So what you're going to do is grab the dumbbells in your hand. You can put them up onto your thighs and then help use your thighs to kick them up into place. You only need to do that if the weight is heavy, because if it's heavy and you try and use just your arms, you actually risk tearing a bicep or a tendon in your elbows, something like that, especially if you haven't worked out upper body in a long time. So here you'll see that the dumbbell comes down and my elbows pretty much touch the floor. That limits my range of motion to just over half of what a full press would be, but I still get to really focus on stability of the dumbbells in the air, and you'll notice that I'm bringing my dumbbells down to about my chest area. They're not too low, and my elbows are also not too flared out to the side. So here you'll see me having my elbows closer to my body, and here you'll see me having my elbows a little flared out. There's nothing really wrong with either of those, but you get the best strength from being somewhere in between. It's also the safest on your joints. If you have your elbows too far flared out to the sides, then you put a little more stress and tension on the shoulder girdle, and same thing if you have them a little too tucked in close to your body. So that's why you want to safely pick an in-between spot around a 45-degree angle or so. Okay, just like the first set of every other exercise, this is your set to reflect on how that felt and pay attention to anything that might have been either bothering you or something that felt good. Now take the last little bit of the rest to take a few deep breaths, focus on the right muscles that you're going to be using. In this case, it's mostly the chest, the shoulders, and the triceps that are pressing this weight up into the air. Alright, let's do it. Set number 2. Kick the dumbbells up if you need. Get into the position. You see how my elbows come down at about a 45-degree angle. Like I said before, they're not completely flared outwards to the sides, and they're not completely tucked in either. And just keep that rep count going. Again, do whatever you can based on the weights that you have available to you, but we want to aim for 10 to 15. This should be relatively lighter weights that eventually you can get to 15 reps or maybe even more. Now tempo is also super important. We want to make sure that you're controlling the weight on the way down. Your muscles also get worked on the way down, not just the way up. So we still want tension on the way down. If you go down too fast, then you miss out on a lot of that tension. Okay, and just like that, there's one more set to go. Again, reflect back on how those first 2 sets felt. If there was any pain, and I don't mean muscle pain, I mean any joint pain or any sharp pains going on, you probably want to skip this exercise, make note of it, and reach out to one of us at Clearcut Fitness. Hopefully we'll be able to send you something that you can fix on your own. Otherwise, we'd love to help you out with some one-on-one personal training. Alright, 10 seconds for your third and final set. last set to focus on and get those muscles pumping. Again, you want to focus on your chest muscles, your shoulders, and your triceps, but also just focus on getting that weight up and controlling it on the way down. You see how my tempo here is nice and strong on the way up, so I get a strong contraction, but slower on the way down. This is so that, again, like I said before, I'm not losing any of the tension on the rep on the way down. I still want to work my muscles as much as I possibly can and take advantage of the contraction on the way down as well. And once again, my example of more tucked elbows versus more flared out elbows. And we generally want to lie right in between there like I was at the beginning. Alright, good stuff, guys. You got 3 exercises down. Next up, we're going for a glute bridge. Now, this exercise focuses on your glute muscles, but you also want to be bracing the abs as much as possible. This is because if you don't, you might actually be using your hamstrings or your lower back to pull your hips up off the ground. So really pay attention and focus onto how this exercise feels, because we want your glutes working most here. If you have lower back pain during this exercise, please reach out to one of us at Clear Cut Fitness. Owner and founder Chris Diamantakos has a low back rehab book, and we're also able to give you some tips in order how to properly do a glute bridge so you feel the right muscles working and you don't hurt yourself. Alright, let's go. So you can do this weighted or unweighted, but of course this is a dumbbell workout, so we would like you to progress from body weight to adding a dumbbell onto the hips. And what I'm doing is actually holding the dumbbell down on my hips so it doesn't roll and crush my body. And I'm just thrusting my glutes up into the air with the biggest range of motion that I can get. I have somewhat tight hips in the front in my hip flexors, so I can't get as extended as some other people would. However, you'll still notice that it's good enough to get a bit of a range of motion, and I still definitely feel my glutes going by the end of the 15 reps. We also want you to pay attention to your foot positioning, your foot and your knees. Just like a squat, we want them to be aligned. So take a look, don't allow your feet to be super close together. Make sure that your knees are in the same direction as your toes are pointing when you're doing a hip thrust or glute bridge. Alright, so that was your first set. Again, focus on, did you feel your butt working? Did you feel your glutes? Or did you feel your hamstrings too much? A really good exercise that we like to do when we're first prescribing this is have you do it body weight and actually grab onto your hamstrings and then do a couple of reps grabbing onto your glutes. This is so that you can feel which muscle is contracting more or not. Sometimes if it's your first time doing an exercise, you're more focused on actually doing the exercise as opposed to how it feels. So if it was hard for you to tell if your glutes were burning or working at all during the exercise, a good idea is to actually grab your muscle and see which one is working for the next set. 10 seconds, guys. Take a couple deep breaths, focus, and get ready to squeeze the booty. Alright, here we go, next set. So let's just pretend here that you didn't have the weight, or maybe you still had the weight, you were holding it down with one hand so it doesn't fly and crush your face, and your other hand is grabbing your glutes for a couple reps, and then grabbing your hamstrings for a couple reps. Now we want to feel mostly the glutes, and not the lower back, and not the hamstrings, but they can still work a little bit. After all, they do the same function as the glutes, which is called hip extension. Now take that time and really focus on doing whatever you can mentally to get your butt muscles working more than your hamstrings if that's the case. If not, if you feel your glutes working the most, then amazing. Ignore everything that I said and continue to do this movement the way that you're doing it. That just means that your body is using the right muscles and your nervous system is primed for this specific exercise, which is great. A lot of research shows that if your glutes are either too weak or not firing well enough, it can lead to things like low back pain, upper back pain, tight hips, and weak performance in almost any sport. So it's really important to get those glutes going so that you have a healthy body and a high-performing body. All right, here we are for your third and final set. Now, if you felt the first couple sets properly, then the third set you're really going to feel the glutes. Now, I don't know exactly what this is, but usually after 2 or 3 sets, my glutes are totally on fire. I don't know if it's maybe because I've been sitting on it during the rest and the blood pools and doesn't circulate properly. I don't know what it is, but I really feel it by the end of this. So just keep the focus, keep the form proper. Get the glutes, not the lower back, and not the hamstrings. All right, ladies and gentlemen, your last exercise is called the dead bug. So what this is a core exercise that works mostly your abs. However, you'll also feel your obliques, which are the side muscles of your abs. Now what we do here is we go opposite arm and opposite leg out, while the other arm and leg stay stationary in the spot that you see them. It's a little tricky at first, as your arm will want to move with the opposite arm, but you really got to focus mentally on not allowing that to happen. It's also super important that you brace the abs, which kind of makes you feel like your lower back is flattening against the ground. After all, this is an ab exercise. If you feel your lower back too much, you're doing something wrong, something's off, and you really have to focus on bracing your abdominal muscles. Okay, so like I explained during the rest period, what you're going to do is lay down on your back. You're going to have your knees and legs bent at a 90-degree angle. Your arms are going to be vertical, straight up into the air. And you're going to kick out your opposite arm and opposite leg while the other arm and leg stay stationary. Now, like I said, that takes a little bit of practice at first, but you also want to focus on bracing your abs. Now, if you can't do a full range of motion, if you start to feel your lower back bother you, or if you just don't feel your abs working, then what I would actually do is slow it down and only do a half range of motion where you don't go all the way to the ground. This may help you engage your abs a little bit better, especially because you may have tight hips or tight mobility in your upper back, and that could actually be preventing you from getting a full range of motion and using your abs. Some people also tend to feel a click or a pop in their hips when they do this, and that is a major sign that your abs are too weak. This is another example that I would really reach out to someone at Clear Cut Fitness to get some personal one-on-one training. It can really help you focus on using the right muscles, and the trainer can help find the right cues that work for you and your body type and your learning type. Don't sleep on this idea because this is a somewhat beginner program, and if your abs are still weak while you progress to more intermediate and advanced programs, you're going to have a harder time getting through them and seeing the results that you want. Make sure that your abs are working properly and really learn from this workout experience. This is now your second set. So what I didn't address in the first set is that we aren't actually doing 15 reps each side. You can if you actually are strong enough and if you can handle that type of endurance. But to start, we like about 6 to 8 reps each side, totaling between 14 and 16 reps. And again, the whole time you're focusing on bracing the abs and you still want to breathe. I know it's tough at first to get your breaths in while you're trying to keep your abs braced. However, there is a way to still breathe quickly in between reps, and you can actually still brace the abs and breathe at the same time. It's just a little bit more of an advanced method. Now, because this is a beginner program, 2 sets will probably do just fine, but we're trying to accelerate you to the next level, and if you can handle it, I would throw in this 3rd set. You can do this program multiple times over and still grow and still gain strength and see results. So with that in mind, don't feel like you need to do the 3rd set right away. You can do the 3rd set the second time that you do this workout if you want. Now, some people ask, why do we save the abs till the end? And there are a couple of reasons. The main reason is because you want your abs working and not tired for all the other exercises that you do that are heavier. If your abs aren't working properly, you're either going to be weaker or susceptible to injury during your workout. Now, the second reason for that is because, generally speaking, the abs are not as heavy as the other exercises, and with order of operations for exercises, you generally want to do the heavier and harder exercises first. For some people, this actually might be the hardest, but generally speaking, for programming, we want to do the lighter exercises first, and this exercise is body weight. So this is your 3rd and final set. You are almost done. You can take a little quick breath in between each rep. I don't want you holding your breath for the whole time. What is it, about a minute that you're doing this? Make sure you take your time, focus, feel the abs working. Thanks so much for doing the first full workout of this 3-day series.